Good morning, guys. Today we're going to be talking about simple interest. You do get this formula on your star chart. So this is I equals PRT. Along with simple interest, you do get compound interest, which we'll go over in about 3 days. So there are a couple things that you do need to know with simple interest. So we're going to go into that. It's really important that you understand how to solve equations because we are going to have to solve for any one of these variables, okay? So we have interest equals principal times rate times time. So principal, rate, and time. I is the interest. This is the amount of money paid or earned. So after a certain amount of time, this is what you earn onto your original. So that's what simple interest is all about. It's about loans and payments and savings account and really earning money on top of your actual money. So P is the principal. The amount of money invested or borrowed. So invested or borrowed. So remember, something you borrow, you have to give back. Something you've invested means it's yours. R is the annual interest rate expressed as a decimal. So you're going to have to change from percent to decimal. Time is the time. Written in years. So we have the total amount of money. How can you figure out your total amount of money? You take the interest and you add it to the principal. So you're adding these two things. Add for total. Okay, so those two things are going to give you what you actually, your overall, the total. So I is interest. P is principal. Oops. So right over here, if you did print this paper off, and even if you didn't, I do want to talk about this really quick. So rate expressed as a decimal. So we're going to so what if we have a percent? Well, we're going to have, let's do 3 different percents, okay? So we use something called Dr. Pepper decimal percent. We are starting with the percent. So if we don't see a decimal, out of sight to the right, so it's all the way over here, we are moving it not 1, but 2 spaces over. And then that's it. So on this one, you can see that I don't have a decimal. So I'm going to put a decimal right after the 3. I am then going to move it 2 spaces. So 1, 2. So in that space between the decimal and the 3, I'm going to put a 0, like so. So 0.03, this would be my rate. This is what I would plug into my formula, okay? So right here, I see that I do have a decimal. So we're going to grab that decimal and we're going to move it 1, 2 times. And again, what are we putting in the space? We're putting a 0 because we need a space filler. So it's actually going to be 0.025. And this is what I would input into my formula. Next, we have 50%. This one and the first one are very similar in the fact that they don't have decimals, so we have to add them. So I'm going to put it right here on the end, and again, I'm going to move it 1, 2 spaces. So remember that is 0.5 or 0.50. Those are the same. Just make sure you don't forget that decimal because that is not 50, that's 0.50. 50 cents and $50 are very different. We want 50 cents in this case, or half. All right, and that really is what you need for this rate. You really want to change all those percents to decimals because if you put this in your calculator, it's not really going to work. It's going to give you some weird number, and if you're using Desmos, the percent doesn't really work the way we use it, so you're gonna have to do a little converting. Okay, so down here, practice converting the time expressed in years to a decimal by dividing the number of months. So we want everything in years. So if I have months, I want to divide by 12. Why? Because there is 12 months in 1 year. So like right here, this would be 6 months over 12 months would give me 0.5 years. So 24 months divided by 12 would give me 2 years. 9 months divided by 12 would give me 0.75 years. Okay, and this is what you want to put into your equation. So the things we're converting right now, it's because we're going to plug them into this equation, and we're like mainly right here, R and T. We're going to plug those in. If we leave them as they are, we're going to get really wrong numbers. So we just want to make sure that we're plugging in the right place. Okay, so 3 months out of 12 months would be 0.25 years because it's a fourth of a year. It's 25% of a year, 0.25 years. 30 months out of 12 months would be 2.5 years. And this you can definitely do in a calculator. You can do in Desmos. You just need to make sure you're doing it. You need to make sure you're dividing by 12. So 15 divided by 12 would be 1.25 years. Okay, so let's get into the actual problems. This was just kind of the beforehand, before I solved these problems. And we are looking at number 1. Okay, so number 1, example 1, it says find the simple interest for a loan of $500 at 6.5% for 3 years. So I already know I'm solving for I. I am always going to write out what I know and what I don't know. So I know I need I, P, R, and T. So I just said I'm solving for I, so I'm going to put a question mark because I don't know what I is. I see that I'm getting a loan for $500. So that tells me that this is my initial amount. So starting amount. I want to know how much money is being built off of that money. So starting amount is 500. My interest is my interest rate is 6.5%, which, like I said before, we have to change it to a decimal. So I'm going to grab this decimal and move it twice. So 6.5, I'm moving it 1, 2. So that is 0.065. And then for 3 years, we're good to go because this is already in year, so I'm good. So my equation, and I write my equation every single time just because it makes life easier. So I'm going to plug in what I know. I know 500, and I plug it in with parentheses. In case I have any negative signs, I can just put the parentheses and my calculator won't get confused. It won't think that I'm doing a minus problem, a subtraction problem. So 500.065 and then 3. And this you can actually plug straight into your calculator just as it is. So 500 times 0.065 times 3. And I get 97.5. And what is this 97.5? It is my interest. So this is the amount of money that I have to pay on top of my initial value. So I am paying $597.50. If they just ask for the interest, then this is your answer, okay? If we want our total, so this is just our interest. So what if I want to know the total balance? I would take my interest and my principal and I would add them together. So 500 plus 97.50, which is 597.50. So this would be my total balance if I needed it. And you will see problems like that on your practice, so just make sure you know that. Okay, example 2. Felicia took out a 5-year loan for $15,000. $15,000 to buy a car. If the simple interest rate was 11%, how much will she pay for the car including interest? And I also see 5. So how much will she pay for the car including interest? So that's this total balance. So that is this total balance. So even to find the total balance, I've got to find the interest first. So I'm going to write what I know. So I do not know interest. I know that she took out a loan for $15,000. And I'm not going to write that comma because if you try to write a comma in your calculator, it's probably going to erase everything. So just 15,000 is good. Also on your actual work assignment for in Schoology, don't write a comma because it might count it wrong. So just write the number as is. Simple interest rate was 11%, and I am changing that. So no decimal, out of sight to the right. I'm going to move that twice, so 0.11. And my time is 5. So let's get right on it. PRT, 15,000, 0.11 times 5. And again, we can plug this right into our calculator. 15,000 times 0.11 times 5. This is 8250. So this is the interest, but I wanted to know the total, which is I plus P. And write plus in case you think that's a T. That's a plus sign. Okay, so 8250 is my interest plus 15,000. So 23,250. And in case you're wondering, let's kind of interpret this problem. Right here, this is how much she's paying for, this is how much the car costs. So you know when you go to a dealership and you see the number on the window, like a big sticker, that's this. But she's actually going to pay this because you have to take out a loan with interest. Well, you don't have to. You can pay in cash and just pay what you have. But if you don't have that much money on you, you're going to have to take out a loan and then you've got to pay it back with interest. So this is how much she'll pay for her car in total. And it'll take her 5 years to pay this off. Okay, so example 3. You put $1,000 in your account. The account earns $80, simple interest in 4 years. What is the annual interest rate? So I, P, R, and T. I is your interest, which is 80. Principal, so what did I put into the account at the beginning was 1,000. Rate, I don't know. And time is 4 years. So I equals P, R, and T. I know I know principal, I don't know R, and I know time is 4. So we want to isolate for R. So what we could do is we could do a bunch of stuff where we switch everything over, divide by one number, or you can just take it one part at a time. I know that I'm multiplying this 1,000 and I'm also multiplying this 4. So the inverse or the opposite would be to divide. So I'm going to divide by 1,000 on both sides. This should give me a decimal, which it does. I get 0.08. And then I have R times 4. I need to divide by 4 still because I want R completely alone. So 0.08 divided by 4. So R equals 0.02. And now it's for this, it's fine, but it's important to know, how would I change this back to a percent? Well, I go this way to make a decimal, so I'm going to go this way to make a percent. So this is actually 2%. And all I did right here was just move this twice. Okay, hang in there, guys. We just have 2 more examples. So example 4, how long will Carly have to leave $5,000 in the bank to earn $500 in simple interest at 2%? So it says how long. That's time. I, P, R, T. So interest is 500. That's how much I want to earn. Principal is 5,000. That's how much I'm putting in. Rate is 2% or 0.02. And time is, I don't know. So let's plug in what we know. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do the same thing as here. But if you want, you can actually do 5,000 times 0.02 and then just divide by that number. That's fine. However, I'm going to divide by 5,000. When I do this, I have trailing zeros, so I can actually take those out. And I just have 5 divided by 50. Which is 0.1. And if you don't believe me, you can do 500 divided by 5,000 in your calculator and it should give you the same thing. Okay, so 0.02 times time. I'm dividing by 0.02. Divide by 0.02. Make sure you do that. Don't divide by 2 because you'll get a completely wrong answer. So 0.1 divided by 0.02, T equals 5. So what does this mean? This means that 5 years is how long it would take. And we have made it to the last problem, so here we go. How much money did Carol borrow from the bank if she owed $45 in interest after 10 years with an annual interest rate of 3.5%? So okay, so I see that I know the interest is $45. I don't know principal. I know the rate is 3.5%. So changing that, I'm moving this twice, not once, so 0.035. And time is 10. Plug in what you know. So interest is 45, principal, I don't know. Rate is 0.035, and time is 10. And we're just going to do the same thing that we did for these other problems. We're going to divide twice. So the first time by 0.035. Okay, so I got 1285. And I'm going to round. I'm just going to, I'll round to the nearest hundredth, so 0.71. Okay, next I need to divide by 10, divide by 10. So my principal was 128.57. Okay, so what this means is this was the amount that Carol borrowed at the beginning. So at 10 years with 3.5% interest, she only had to pay $45. Because I mean, this is kind of a small amount, so sounds right. And that is it. Okay, guys, good luck on the assignments. Should you need any help, feel free to pop in Zoom or send a message through Schoology, whatever you need to do. Bye, guys.